Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. So, on today's episode, I kind of did want to speak about the section immediately after the previous episode, which is section 386 titled Pathetic and Naive. I think it's just a very interesting concept that I wanted to comment on. I'm going to go ahead and read it right quick. Quote, it may be a very vulgar habit to let no opportunity slip of assuming a pathetic air for the sake of the enjoyment to be experienced and imagining the spectator striking his breast and feeling himself to be small and miserable. Consequently, it may also be the indication of a noble mind to make fun of pathetic situations and to behave in an undignified manner in them. The old warlike nobility of France possessed that kind of distinction and delicacy. End quote. Um, I like this one because it just immediately reminds me of today. We have this habit, especially now, of with the whole reparations and stuff like that, which I feel is just an asinine concept. But let's not get into that. But how people consistently take on the mantle of the sufferer in order to show power or in order to gain power over the supposed people who are causing this suffering. Look at me. Don't you feel bad about how I feel? Don't you feel bad about our economic situation, political situation, so on and so forth? And then they personify the woes and the troubles of their supposed afflicted community that they are representing, right? And there is a sense of power and a vulgar habit in that, so that you're always wanting to take on the airs of the person who requires pity, the person who's continuously oppressed. Woe is me, and misery surely does love company. But that is with a lot of people, the power of wanting to be able to see that if you take on the airs as many times as you can, as you're the one that's afflicted, you're the one that's oppressed, you're the one with the trauma, you're the one that like all of these terrible emotions, you revel in seeing the supposed afflictors of these things striking their breast and feeling bad about themselves, because now you know that you have a pull on them, you have a hook on them. And then you go to the other ones, right? For a noble mind to make fun of pathetic situations, and that is the inversion of what I was previously talking about. Instead of personifying your surroundings, your pathetic surroundings, and all this other stuff, and being the embodiment of pitiful, being the embodiment of someone who, from the position of subservient, of being a servant, or the position of oppressed, can now be the oppressor, taking advantage of this moral landscape of pity and things of that nature. Then you could go on to the noble mind, and he compares it to the French, of people who see the world around them and see the turbulence and everything, but makes light of it, makes a joke out of it. Doesn't take it too seriously, and that goes very well with Stoicism, right? Reading Epictetus, and how he was talking about how he sent like an agent, like obviously this is an example, but he was talking about how they sent an agent to Rome to see how events are unfolding, and the man comes screaming and crying, saying everything's going to shit. Oh my God, the city is burning, everything's going crazy, and he has become hysterical. He has personified his surroundings. Everyone else is killing each other. Everyone else is going crazy. And he has lost his composure in that sense. He has become part of his environment. He has allowed his environment to seep into him and to become that focal point of the hysteria. And they look at him like, dude, what the hell? Like, we're not going to sign you up for this if you're going to come back with these sort of ridiculous reports. What about this other guy? I forgot his name. That he got sent over there, and he's like, everything's fine. Do I look armed? Am I fleeing from an enemy army? Am I the one burning? No, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And that is one of the essential components of something like Stoicism, is not to take on the qualities of your environment and realize that that's outside of your control. Therefore, what's the point in worrying about that? Make light of it. At the end of the day, all we have is our impressions. All we have is the way that we perceive the world around us. And to be able to make light of the situations and to be the eye of the storm is to be in control. Is to use that that developed reason, or whatever you're striving to continuously learn about stoicism and things of that nature, and self-control. Now is the time to put it into practice. It is those sort of situations, and that's one of the last segment points that I read about Epictetus before I stopped. Is what's the point if you're not going to practice what you preach? And this goes hand in hand because, like, he talks about France, and especially during the 100 Years' War and the 30 Years' War and the French Wars of religion. And medieval times was a crazy time indeed for Europe, and I mean for the whole world. And principalities up the ass everywhere, constantly fighting and bickering amongst each other, crucifying one another. Terrible battles, terrible catastrophes inflicted. Look at France during the 100 Years' War and the Battle of, what's that name of the fucking battle again? I forgot. It's with Henry II, and it's very famous, but for the life of me, I can't recall. It's what it is. But even with the world and everything crumbling around them, they still find time to revel in their pleasures, still find time for leisure, still find time for reflection and commenting and having parties and things of that nature. And that's really important when it comes to developing power over oneself. And that's the most important thing, is not allowing the situations to dictate you, not allow yourself to be the personification of the world around you and the current events, is to be the one that can laugh and brush it off, and the one that could comment on and display unredeeming behavior in light of those situations, make light of those terrible situations. Not like a lot of people will want you to be, is to always be worried about what's going on. Don't you stress about climate change? Aren't you stressed about this? Aren't you stressed about that? I'm gonna fucking be sleep deprived with how much stress they want me to, how much burden I have to carry according to everybody else. And I feel like they do that on purpose. You feel weak, you feel burning, you don't feel as strong as you used to. You're always cowering, you're always bitching and complaining, and you're changing your worldview. And now that you have taken on the airs of one that is consistently requiring to exhibit the position of being pitied, you're always going to seek that, because now that becomes your staple of power, or your avenue of exhibiting power, instead of like a noble mind, as Nietzsche says, and is to be the man that can make fun of it all. Because when you separate yourself and you're not in the rabble, you can look over it. You can look onto the horizon and see what's the possibilities after all this. Eventually it is going to end. And to be control of one's mind. Not allow those events to seep into your own conscious like fungi, like a weed. You have no idea where it's come from, and then before you know it's completely altered your way of thinking, because you allowed it to fester, and you weren't attentive enough to the garden of your mind, to the garden of your thoughts, and how these thoughts are being cultivated. You were just the soil at that point. It's very cool. It's just like these two practices go so well. Like, I know Nietzsche clowns Stoicism a lot, but I find a lot of similarities that could be used quite beneficially, and it's quite an interesting combination having these two things in your arsenal, because they coincide with each other very well, and a lot of them harken to the same things. It's just like, especially now, we're always having to be stressed about one thing or the other, and that really does cloud your judgment. And what is the whole point of reason but to escape from, and not to be able to escape, but to be able to overcome and to separate oneself from the surroundings, right? To not allow nature and all that entails to control you, but to be in control. That distinction is always necessary, and it's always important to keep it in mind when these sort of instances do occur, for you to put that sort of stuff into practice, and not start bang like fucking sheep like everybody else, and start bitching and complaining about the world and life, and take on the rhetoric of everybody else, and woe is me, life is so hard, and this and that. And it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. But like, at the end of the day, life is tough, so what? Deal with it. I know that sounds pretty unrelenting, But it really is like that, and I'm glad I'm starting to believe, like that is starting to become the prevailing or the dominant perception of my mind and the way I look at things. That's becoming the dominant preconception, is that, no matter how life turns out, I have to be in control. I can't allow myself to feel bad about shit. Am I gonna really allow myself to develop negative emotions according, because of what someone else did, or whether someone leaves my life or something like that? Like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, the only thing you can control is yourself and the way that you perceive things. And I don't want to be like a peasant. I don't want to be at that point. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that goes down this road of philosophy. In order to develop some sort of self-control, in order to develop that perspective that allows you to extricate yourself from the rabble, the pathetic rabble that is out now. Um, like, it's very interesting. I wanted to put it out. It's pretty cool. That it just this sounds a lot like stoicism, really. So that'll be it for right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. I made these 2 videos back to back, but every single time I read, I really do want to put these things out there before I forget. But thank you all for listening and watching once again. I love you all. Make some beautiful gains today. Until next time, peace.